Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Before we start with our today's analysis, we have two important announcements. The first is in reference to international relations this week. As part of this initiative, we will be discussing some of the important international relations topics. So please do watch at 8 p.m. so that you understand everything about this topic. The second announcement is in reference to the Telegram channel. If you've not joined the channel, please do join so that you get all the current affairs related updates. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says, no consensus is derailing counter-terror diplomacy. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. We recently had one of the conferences that was held in India. This happens to be United Nations Security Council's Counter-Terrorism Committee. What is this counter-terrorism committee? What is the Delhi Declaration? What was the outcome of the Delhi Declaration was recently discussed as part of our big news initiative. So please do look into it to understand what is this topic all about. At the end of this conference, what we had was the Delhi Declaration. They did speak about how technology was being used to further perpetuate terrorism, how some countries are not cooperative, what needs to be done going forward as part of this initiative. It was recently concluded in Delhi and we had the Delhi Declaration, which was the outcome of United Nations Security Council's Counter-Terrorism Committee. This is the first instance. The second instance happens to be No Money for Terror Conference. This is scheduled to be conducted in India on November 18th and 19th. Who is organizing it? The conference is organized by the Financial Intelligence Units of over 150 countries jointly called the Egmont Group. And from India, we have the Ministry of Home Affairs with the support of the External Affairs, which is going to organize this No Money for Terror conference. What is the objective of this conference? Basically, you will have the ministers, diplomats, counterterrorism experts who will all be part of this initiative. They will start discussing about how the virtual assets, the cryptocurrencies, are being misused, and these are also being misused in such a way to perpetuate violence, conduct terrorist activities in some other country. So the meeting will basically focus on improving the sharing of information, cooperating between member countries amongst all the financial intelligence units of various countries. So the meeting will focus on technical, legal, regulatory matters related to counter terror financing. This will be held in India on November 18th and 19th. And in the month of December, we will also have the United Nations Security Council presidency taken up by India. And what we will come up with is the global counter-terrorism architecture. All this is good for India. All this is good for the global community as well. But is it going to actually work in reality? All these conferences are speaking about the future talks, what we are going to do. Yes, it is applicable. Yes, it is no doubt useful as well. But at the same time, the stark reality is something else which India also has to focus on. And that is what this article is focusing on. This article currently goes on to say that we have ample amount of challenges that we currently have. How are we going to address all these challenges? We have the existing conferences. Yes, this will give impetus to the bringing end of terrorism, but we also have to address the present challenges, says this article. What are the challenges? The article focuses on three important parameters. One is what is called as the global war on terrorism. What is this global war on terrorism? We all remember about 9/11 as well. We also remember how those twin towers of United States of America was completely destroyed by the terrorist organizations. Immediately after the 9/11, what happened? United States of America came up with global war on terrorism. It wanted to bring an end to terrorism and it went on took on the terrorists especially in the country of Afghanistan. But let's go back few months before that, few years before that. India was also saying that India's plane, that is IC-814, was hijacked. India also told the entire world that terrorism should not be dealt only by that particular country which is facing it, but it is a global issue. When India did say this to United States of America and to multiple other countries, no one took us seriously. But immediately after 9/11 happened, they understood the gravity of terrorism, and they said that terrorism is not going to hit one single country, but it is a global affair that all of us will have to concentrate on. So what did United States of America do? United States of America immediately went on a war to bring an end to terrorism in Afghanistan. And finally, what happened? They had to move out from Afghanistan, and now it is Taliban which has taken over the country, and they're not even giving importance to the human rights, the women rights, so on and so forth. At the end of this global war on terrorism, what is happening? We have one of the organizations, a terrorist organization itself, which is controlling another country. During this entire process, these countries, which initially launched the global war on terrorism, which also included NATO forces, which also include developed countries, these countries are not even focusing on Afghanistan. So India has to learn a bitter lesson that only when it comes to its own issues, countries will focus on it, and this whole idea of global war on terrorism is only for a temporary period. And United States of America withdrew from Afghanistan, and other countries which had initially supported United States of America, they're not even caring as to what is happening in Afghanistan right now. Despite human right violations, despite women rights violations, these countries are not paying heed to it. So it is us who have to take care of ourselves is the first lesson. So counter-terrorism cooperation is going to be less cooperative, and counter-terror regimes such as UNSC resolutions 1267, 1373 are rendered outdated and toothless. This also means that we have United States of America, which had its ally in the form of Pakistan. Now Pakistan's all-weather good friend happens to be China. So whenever Pakistan is in trouble, what exactly happens? It is United States of America and India which come up with designating one of the individual as a terrorist. They also come up with resolutions as well, but Pakistan's all-weather friend China immediately vetoes it. So India is coming up with an approach to designate one of the individual as a global terrorist, so that this particular person and his organization's assets are frozen. But then, despite all the efforts made by USA and India, we have the veto power that is used by China repeatedly, time after time. We have ample examples with this well. So that is not going to work out. So what is it India have to do? India will have to come up with its own approach to bring an end to terrorism. Earlier, when India did say that terrorism is not a localized issue, it is a global issue, countries did not listen to it. They felt it is a local issue. Only when they were hit, they did realize that it was a global issue. India did say then, countries did not listen. Now countries are listening. And when United States of America withdrew from Afghanistan, it is Taliban which is taken over. Human rights, women rights are completely off, and no country seems to take care. So it is only India which has to devise its own share of plans for the future, is the first argument given by the author. The second argument is in terms of the definition. What is this definition that we are speaking about? Currently, we do not have a clear-cut definition of what is terrorism. So terrorism in itself should have a definition, which is why back in the year 1996, we had the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism, which was proposed by India. So this was a proposal made by India, which was made to United Nations General Assembly, that let's have a definition of terrorism, so that if any country commits it, whether it is the state or the non-state actor, whosoever it is, let's have a clear-cut definition. So if any country engages in such an activity directly or indirectly, they should be imposed with penalty, was a proposal made by India back in the year 1996. So basically, India proposed that we need to have a universal definition of terrorism that all members of the United Nations General Assembly will have to adopt into their criminal laws. So every country will have their own share of criminal laws. They'll also have terrorist laws as well. So if there is a common platform, let's put it out and discuss what this definition is, and this definition will have to be adopted into their own criminal laws. But many countries were not happy about it. Why? That is because they had their own issues with respect to this definition. India with this proposal also said that we have to ban all terror groups, shut down terror camps, prosecute all terrorists under special laws, and also make cross-border terrorism an inexcusable offense worldwide. As a result, many countries were not happy with it. Let's take for example United States of America. What did United States of America say? If we are coming up with a definition, United States of America has made interference in Iran. They have also gone to Libya as well. They have also gone to Afghanistan as well. What is this definition all about? Does this definition also include official sanction made by that particular country's government? And if this country's government soldiers hit to another country, will it also be called as terrorist activity? So they were in an apprehensive position and they did not accept any kind of definition. Added to it, we had the Latin American countries as well. These countries were not also happy with this universal definition. Why? Because there are also human right violations that are taking place in Latin America in number of countries. Let's say for example in Brazil, in Argentina, in Paraguay, these countries also witness a lot of human right violations. So Latin American countries were not happy with this universal definition of terrorism, and ultimately we have the OIC countries which also have number of national liberation movements. Let's say for example we also have the Israel Palestine conflict as well. So how are you going to define terrorism? So if there is a particular country which is seeking for the national liberation, in that case how are you going to define it? Will it be called as a terrorist organization? Where some of the apprehensions back then in the comprehensive convention on the international tourism, even now this article currently goes on to say, when you speak about CCIT, the major problem happens to be there can be one criminal. This particular criminal can be a freedom fighter for one country and he can be a terrorist for another country. So how are we going to clearly give a definition? So definition for terrorism is the second major ambiguity which we have to resolve. On one side, we have to come up with our own tools and equipments and formulae to bring an end to this terrorism is the first recommendation. Second is, we do not have a clear-cut definition. This definition will not be accepted by countries as well. United States of America, Latin American countries, in fact, the OIC countries have not accepted in the past. So we have to come up with our own definition and we have to bring an end to this terrorist activity is the second one. Since the CCIT has not been accepted in the past, we are sure that it is not going to be accepted in the near future as well. So let's draw our own definition, convince the countries as much as possible. If it is not so, you devise and execute it is the second recommendation. Third is, it speaks about emerging technologies and weaponization. As of now, we did discuss recently in our big news as well, one of the drones happens to be kamikaze drones. Then we have also discussed in our past CNAs that there is artificial intelligence that is being used, and we have also discussed about robotics as well. So the future, the number of human beings who will be employed would be comparatively less. So it is the drones which will take over, it is the artificial intelligence that will take over, it is the robotics which will take over. So what we have is technological advancement added to it. What we will also have is the biological warfare as well. And it is said that many have also said that COVID-19 was also a biological warfare. We are not saying it so, but many say that it is a biological warfare as well. So we are living in tough times where technology is taking over all the things that earlier humans were doing. We also have the cyber warfare as well. We also have the chemical warfare as well. This means that countries will also have to devise tools for technology. So it is not just about finances. It is not just about cryptocurrency. It is not just about making use of terror financing. All these aspects will have to be taken up, and we need to bring all the countries into a global consensus. If we do not do so, there can be some countries like Pakistan, Iran, and North Korea which may use it, and they may also support terrorist groups carrying out cross border strikes, drone attacks, and cyber warfare as well. So it is at this particular point, India will have to bring in as many countries as possible and ensure that we have a global consensus about the emerging technologies and weaponization. And only if the countries accept, we would be able to prevent the future issues is what is this article all about. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, should the age of consent be changed for adolescents? Let us try and understand what is this article all about. Let me explain this with the help of an example. Let's say we have a girl who is about 16 years of age. Let's say there is another guy who is less than 18 years of age. Both are minors, they are not majors. If you look into the laws of the country, who can get married? For a woman to get married, she has to be above 18 years of age. For a boy to get married, he has to be above 21 years of age. But if a girl has to engage in a sexual intimate relationship, she has to be above 18 as well. Same is to do with the guy. But what if there is a girl who is above 16 years but less than 18 years, but she has given consent to another boy who is less than 18 years? They both engage in a physical intimate relationship, and this girl also becomes pregnant as well. In this particular case, the girl has given the consent, both have given consent to each other, but despite giving the consent, the boy can be booked under what is called as the statutory rape. So this article here is basically speaking about this concept of statutory rape, where despite consent being given by the girl, there are ample number of cases where this guy is booked under the charge of rape, and unfortunately he also suffers from court cases, so on and so forth. So what are we speaking about? We are speaking about consent given by a girl who is less than 18 years of age. We are speaking about a boy who is less than 18 years of age. The girls give consent to this particular boy. The boy engages in a physical intimate relationship, but since the law says anyone who is less than 18, even if the girl gives the consent, this is assumed as the rape. Generally, what happens in rape? There is no consent. But in this particular case, the girl is given the consent. But what is happening? Despite giving the consent, he is booked under the charge of rape. So when he is booked, there are two laws that immediately come into picture. One happens to be the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act of 2012, which is the POCSO Act of 2012, and we also have IPC as well. But there have been number of cases which have gone to court. Let's say for example to the Madras High Court. There have been ample cases which have also gone to Karnataka High Court, and recently the Dharwad bench of the Karnataka High Court has also said that if such consent is given, there have been some acquittal as well. So it is in this particular backdrop we have to understand, should the age of consent, that is consent given by the girl, be changed for the adolescents? Let us try and understand with some factual data. This article currently goes on to say that under the POCSO Act of 2012 and under special provisions of the IPC, whosoever commits a penetrative sexual assault on a child, anyone below 18 years of age, can be imprisoned for a term which is not less than 7 years, but which may extend to imprisonment for life, and shall also be liable to a fine. So if a girl has given consent, she has given the consent, the boy has engaged in a physical relationship, despite she giving the consent, the boy will be booked under the charges of rape and he will be thrown behind the bars. There was an analysis that was conducted by Enfold Proactive Health Trust of 1715 romantic cases under the POCSO Act decided between 2016 and 20 by special courts in Assam, Maharashtra and West Bengal, which revealed that such cases constituted 24.3% of the total cases decided by the courts. The parents and the relatives of the girls constituted 80.2% of the complaints. They approached the police after the girl went missing or eloped with her partner or a pregnancy was discovered. The victim and the accused were married to each other in only 46.5% of the cases. In 85.5% of the cases, the girl said that the relationship was consensual. In 81.5% of the cases, they did not state anything incriminating against the accused during evidence. In 61.7% of the cases, the special courts do acknowledge that the relationship was consensual. Moreover, acquittals were recorded in 93.8% of the cases. So what do we understand from this? looking at the data, there have been many cases where a girl has given consent to it. She might have eloped with this particular boy, and because she is eloped with this particular boy without the permission of the parents would have filed the missing case, and once they discover that the girl has become pregnant, they again file a case in the police station, and this will be charged under rape as well, despite she giving the consent. And in some other cases, there can be caste issues, there can be religion issues, so on and so forth, and it is the parents or the caretakers of the girl who might have book the cases in the police station. This is taken as statutory rape, despite the girl giving the consent, despite they engaging in a consensual relationship, despite this girl giving consent to the boy to have a physical intimate relationship. Most of these boys are thrown behind bars. That is because of this statutory rape condition. So anyone who is less than 18 years of age will not be entitled to give the permission for consensual sexual relationship, and as a result this person can be thrown behind bars. Now the question is, when you consider POXO, what is POXO? POXO happens to be a gender neutral law. What is this gender neutral law? When it comes to POXO, if there is a girl, the girl is sexually abused by a man, so this man can be thrown behind bars. Similarly, if there is a boy who is also less than 18 years of age, this boy can be abused by an elderly woman. So if there is a woman who is abused a boy who is less than 18 years of age, this woman can also be thrown behind bars as well. So what we have is this gender neutrality when it comes to the POXO Act. Now the question that is being asked is, the girl is given permission to it, she is given consent to it, the boy has also given consent to it, they have consensual relationship, that is why they enter into physical intimate relationship. Why is the boy only being punished if the POXO happens to be a gender neutral law? In most of these cases, the girl is sent to a committee where she is asked to come out of it. She is sent to the child welfare committee, but it is the boy who goes to the JJ Act. He is tried under the JJ Act and he is also penalized as well. Why is this happening under the POXO is one of the questions asked by many people. So the point is that girls are sent to the child welfare committees, but the boy is prosecuted, he is put on the trial, and is also thrown behind bar as well. In most of these cases, since it is consensual, should we change the age from 18 to 16, is this article asking about. We have one of the landmark judgments that was delivered by the Madras High Court. This is Vijay Lakshmi versus the state rep case. In 2021, in Vijay Lakshmi versus state rep case, the Madras High Court, while dismissing a POXO case, said that the definition of child under section 2 of D of the POXO Act can be redefined as 16 instead of 18. So one of the recommendations given by the Madras High Court, and there have been multiple other high courts as well, all that they are asking the law commission is to reconsider this consent age. So as of now it is 18. Can we reconsider? They are asking the law commission, the dear law commission, please look into it, because it is the boys who are suffering. They are thrown behind bars, their career are put at stake, so kindly reconsider. So the Madras High Court in this case is asking to redefine that a child currently is 18 only for such instances. Can it be considered as 16 is the first one. The second, the court suggested that the age difference in consensual relationship should not be more than 5 years. What do we mean by it? Let's say for example, there is a girl. This girl is in love with another person. Let's say for example, this person is less than 21 years. So according to Madras High Court, if those people have entered into a physical intimate relationship only if the age difference is about 5 years, then let's not consider it as rape, but let's consider it as the Romeo and Juliet case. What is this Romeo and Juliet case? I'll explain in the near future. So the Madras High Court says, let's have an age difference where it can be 1 year, 2 years, where both these people are in love with each other, and in case they enter into a physical intimate relationship, such should not be called as rape, and such person should not be penalized. In another case, Shechem Borlong shooting versus the state of Meghalaya, a couple got entangled under the POCSO Act when the husband took his wife, who was 17, to a hospital for a checkup after she became pregnant. The Meghalaya High Court quashed the case, observing that an application of the act would result in the breakdown of a happy family relationship and the possible consequence of the wife having to take care of a baby with no support. There have been similar such cases where they have acquitted because of this wedlock and the marriage. So what is that we can understand from this whole episode? From this whole episode, what we can also have is what is called as the Romeo and Juliet laws. What are these Romeo and Juliet laws? This is seen in number of states in the United States of America. Basically, the Romeo and Juliet laws provide some degree of protection to the offenders of the statutory rape laws. We know for the fact in rape there is no consent, but if the age gap between the boy and the girl is very less as defined by the law, let's say the age difference is about 2 years or 3 years, where the girl has given the consent, and if they engage in the physical intimate relationship, such should not be called as rape, because it is at that particular moment, because it is at this age that they engage in sexual experiments, is what is happening in United States of America. So in United States of America, they have what is called as the Romeo and Juliet laws. So where they define the age difference that can maximum be accommodated between a boy and a girl, it can be 2 years, 3 years, so on and so forth. If they engage in physical intimate relationship, despite not being majors, it will not be considered as rape. Added to it, what we can also do is give proper awareness to the people that if this so happens, this will be considered as rape. Many students will not know about it, but not knowing a law is not the problem of the law, so they can be thrown behind bars as well. So we have to give them an awareness that if even the consent of the girl is given, if she is anywhere less than 18, if they enter into a physical intimate relationship which unfortunately results in pregnancy, the boy can immediately be thrown into the bar and he will be penalized under the provisions of rape. So what are the concerns voiced? Blanket criminalization of such consensual sexual act will basically involve that this particular boy will have to go to the court of law, and if it is proved, he may also be going to the jail as well. And in such cases, the boy's life will be in court, jail, so on and so forth, and his life will become a major problem. Added to it, it also impacts the delivery of justice as well. How? In case there is a court case that goes to the court of law, this will go to the court and there is a lot of time that it takes. If the court is engaged in such activity that it has to resolve this litigation between the parties all the time, what it means is more pendency of the cases, more time the judges will have to spend, there will be more court time that will be invested in such case. So if the law commission can look into it, that's what is the recommendation made by the Madras High Court as well as by the Karnataka High Court, where they are asking to bring a change with respect to the consent if it so considers, and if so considered and brought a change within the POCSO Act, this will enable that number of cases that are going to the court of law will also drop as well. So the high rate of acquittals clearly show that we do not have the social reality in the picture right now. It is now in the court of the government. It is the government which have to bring the changes if it so considers is right, and amend the law is what is this article all about. Therefore, there is a compelling need for the law reform to revise the age of consent and prevent the criminalization is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Nicobar project gets assent for diversion of 130 square kilometer of forest. This article here is speaking about diversion of the forest. The Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has granted in principle clearance for the diversion of about 130.75 square kilometer of forest on Great Nicobar Island for the mega 72,000 crore project, which includes transshipment, port, airport, a power plant and a greenfield township, and this will be implemented by the Andaman and Nicobar Islands Integrated Development Corporation. So what is this project all about? This happens to be a developmental project where about 130 square kilometer of forest will be diverted for the developmental activities, for the development of roadways, airports, so on and so forth. Why is this project important for the government of India? That is because when you consider the location of Andaman and Nicobar, it has a geostrategic position in the Bay of Bengal, and it also provides access to South and Southeast Asia as well. So the project has been developed that it is advantageous geostrategically for India. Let's look at the statistics. The area is nearly 15% of the thickly forested Great Nicobar Island that is spread over 900 square kilometer. This is one of the largest single such project diversions. It is nearly a quarter of the forest land diverted in the past 3 years across the country, and 65% of the 203 square kilometer of forest land diverted in 3-year period between 2015 and 18. The ministry's own estimates suggest that 8.5 lakh trees will have to be cut in the Great Nicobar for this project. This is doubly significant because there are primary evergreen tropical forests, and they have high biological diversity. They have high endemism, which means there are few species, it can be plants and animals, which are only present in this part of the forest. Ministry documents themselves state that the highland has more than best reserved tropical forests in the world, is home to 650 species of flora and fauna, including endemic species such as Nicobar shrew, the Nicobar long-tailed macaque, the Great Nicobar crested serpent eagle, the Nicobar paradise flycatcher, and the Nicobar megapode, among many others. So this article currently goes on to say that because of such developmental initiatives, what we may see is large-scale destruction of the plant life as well as animal life. And whenever such projects are taking place, what we have to come up with is the compensatory afforestation. A letter confirming the clearance was issued by the Ministry's Forest Conservation Division. A key condition for the clearance is the submission of a detailed scheme for compensatory afforestation, which is to be done on non-notified forest land in Haryana. It also states that an amount of 3,672 crore needs to be earmarked for the environment management plan for the construction and operation of the phase. What does this mean? The project is taking place where? In Andaman and Nicobar. But where is the afforestation being done? It is being conducted in the state of Haryana. So the question is, we are constructing the project in Andaman and Nicobar, and how can we compensate with an afforestation program somewhere in Haryana? The kind of endemic species that are present in Andaman and Nicobar are totally different. What are the kind of trees that are present in Andaman and Nicobar are totally different, and we are compensating for the same by developing a forest somewhere in Haryana. Is it right? Is the first question. The second question is, when it comes to Haryana, it has very minimal forest area. Are we able to get around 130 square kilometer land continuously within Haryana so that we can develop a continuous and an undisturbed forest area? No, is the second major concern. And in the past, whenever compensatory afforestation has been done, it is mostly in terms of plantation crops and not in terms of the natural forest crops, natural forest trees. In that particular case, how can we believe that whatever is destroyed in Andaman and Nicobar, in the Great Nicobar Islands, will it be compensated in Haryana? Is it really going to work? Is another question asked by the environmentalists. The other concern is with respect to the tribal groups. What happens? Some of their lands may also be taken up as well. That's the first concern. The second concern is for people like us who are living in the urban areas and who are living in the rural areas, we might have got acclimatized to number of viruses, bacteria, and our body would be immune to it. But the tribal groups are living in the forest areas. They are not immune to such bacteria or the viruses. If people start going to such islands, they will also spread these viruses and the bacteria in the forest area. Will these tribals be immune to such bacterial or the viral attack is the second concern with respect to the tribals. So we have to look into all these issues and ultimately take up the developmental project is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says first privately developed rocket all set for launch. What are we speaking about? We are speaking about Vikram S. There is one of the Hyderabad based company called as the Skyroot Aerospace. This particular company is into space launch vehicles for launching commercial satellites. It aims to disrupt all the entry barriers to make sure that it develops the cost efficient satellite launch services and also advance making space flights more affordable, reliable and regular as well. They have come up with one of the rockets called as the Vikram S as part of the mission Prarambh. What is this rocket all about? Vikram S is India's first ever privately developed rocket. The rocket has been named Vikram as a tribute to Vikram Sarabhai, who is a renowned scientist and the founder of Indian space program. Vikram S rocket is a single stage suborbital launch vehicle. At present, the Vikram rockets are being developed in such a way that they use solid and cryogenic fuels capable of carrying 290 kg to 560 kg payloads to the sun synchronous polar orbits. Basically, when we are speaking about Vikram, this can be broadly categorized into three parts. One is what is called as Vikram 1, which is weighing about 480 kilograms. This will have a payload to the Earth low orbit. Then we have another rocket which is Vikram 2. It is equipped to lift as much as 595 kilograms of cargo. Then there is Vikram 3 as well, which they are developing. So the Vikram S rocket has been developed by the Hyderabad based Skyroot Airspace and is set to be launched as part of Prarambh space mission. The Prarambh space mission aims to carry three payloads into space, which includes a 2.5 kilogram payload developed by students from several countries. The Vikram S rocket and the Prarambh mission have been developed by Skyroot Airspace with extensive support from ISRO as well as InSpace. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, after the dust, a clearer picture of Agnipath's direction. This article here is basically speaking about Agnipath. We already have a video explaining you what is this Agnipath scheme all about, what were the controversial issues with respect to the Agnipath, why there was a lot of hue and cry, why there were strikes against the Agnipath scheme. All of this has been explained in our video. But what is this article currently speaking about? It currently goes on to say that everything has to change with changing times. Let's say, for example, the author takes into picture the HR policy. What happened with the HR policy? Let's say a few years back in the year 1998, the retirement age of the central government was increased from 58 to 60. So it was increased by about 2 years. Many people did not like it. There was a lot of criticism against it, but after a few years, they have come to accept it. So we cannot always have the same policy. We have to change with changing times. Similarly, Agniveer is also one of thought of program of the government of India. We cannot always have a state coerced attitude, says the author. The second is about training and bonding. Many people have said that with this Agniveer scheme, there will be less of bonding between the soldiers. So the author goes on to say, once they are on the field, they would be able to get used to the friendships. They'll develop their own bonhomie. They'll develop their camaraderie, and with the training methodologies that we have, bonding is for sure to come into picture, says the author. The third is in reference to the lateral absorption. What if the Agniveers are not able to complete the 4 years? In that case, these people can be absorbed by the Ministry of Home Affairs. They can be absorbed in the state police as well. So there are many states which are also considering to add them into their state police forces. So they are also ready to make suitable rules and regulation changes, says the author. So this Agniveer scheme is here to stay. We will also see that what are the challenges that we may face, and as and when we encounter these challenges, we will address them. But we cannot always have a state coerced approach. What we have to do is change with changing times, is what is this article all about. But to understand what is this Agniveer scheme all about, we already have a video. Kindly look into it. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. The hard reality, especially for India, is that the future of counter-terrorism cooperation is going to be less cooperative, with counter-terror regimes rendered toothless. Explain the statement with relevant examples. Should the age of consent be changed for adolescents? Critically examine. Please write all your answers on the comment section, peer review, and do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.